Hello everyone. Today I want to present you the top 5 best tier 10 tank destroyers in the game World of Tanks. The main criteria were a combination of advantages and disadvantages of the vehicle, relevance, and comfort playing on the tank. Also, this top will be only those tank destroyers, which at the moment can get any player. So, here we go. 5th place. In 5th place is the British tank destroyer, FV 4005. Honestly, I didn't want to include this tank in the top 5 in my subjective opinion, but it deserves it. This tank has a lot of flaws that make it a miserable machine, not able to fight on equal terms with other 10th level tanks. Huge size, no armor at all. However, the FV 4002 has one weighty advantage for which many players love this tank: its gun. A 183mm gun with an average damage per shot of 1150. That's really powerful. Good accuracy, stabilization and aiming time for this big gun. Good damage per minute, about 2900 in the top configuration. Great depression angle, 10 degrees down. And also extremely nice mobility for such a big fool. Specific engine power is 18 horsepower per ton. Maximum speed is 32 kilometers per hour. Of course, it's not much, but in general mobility of the tank is comfortable. After listening to all the advantages and disadvantages of the tank, you may think that it is a good tank. But it's not. FV 4002 is a vehicle for the amateur. Has a specific gameplay that not everyone will like. I personally don't recommend researching this tank. 4th place. In 4th place is another British tank destroyer, Badger. This is already a more interesting vehicle. In fact, this tank has only one disadvantage: poor mobility. The tank is really slow. Because of this, sometimes you can just not arrive in time to the position. Otherwise, this tank imbalance, awesome gun and characteristics. Excellent accuracy, stabilization and aiming time. Except that damage per shot is not high, 480, and armor penetration with basic and premium shells is a bit lower than the competitors. However, this does not prevent Badger from tearing up everyone in its path. After all, Badger's armor is awesome. Perhaps, if the armor penetration had been higher, this vehicle would have taken a higher place in the top. In total, I can recommend this vehicle for research, since it's suitable for both weak and skilled players. 3rd place. In 3rd place are two tank destroyers. This is the Soviet Object 268 and Chinese WZ-113G. Featuring it would be wrong to choose one of these tanks, because they are very similar. Let's look at their advantages and disadvantages. Let's start with the Soviet tank. Object 268 has a default for tank destroyer gun. Average damage per shot is 750. Good armor penetration with base and premium shells. Good accuracy, aiming time and damage per minute. Stabilization is bad, but this is a feature of the class. Mobility is also average. Specific engine power is 15 horsepower per ton. Maximum speed is 50 km per hour. I can't say that mobility is good, but also not bad. The Object 268 has armor, but it's pretty weak. But sometimes the armor of this tank works effectively. In general, these tanks are good vehicles and can be safely explored, but I still recommend to look closely at the tanks that are in 2nd and 1st place. 2nd place. In 2nd place is American big boy, T110E3. If I was asked how I would describe this guy in 2 words, I would say, armored monster. That's all you need to know about this tank. Let's move on. 1st place. In 1st place is... Okay, I was kidding. Let's take a look at the characteristics of the T110E3, because there really is a lot to look at. We won't focus too much on the gun. All you need to know is that it's about the same as the Chinese WZ-113G. Featuring what's really worth talking about is this guy's armor. It is almost impossible to penetrate the frontal projection of this tank. The armor ranges from 350mm to huge numbers. There is one small vulnerable area at the bottom, but it is not easy to hit. And if you stand behind a small cover, in fact, you become an invulnerable target. Of course, the mobility of the tank is very, very mediocre. The maximum speed of 20 kilometers per hour. However, because of the excellent armor, it is very comfortable to play on this tank. Perhaps this tank can be compared to the Badger, but due to the higher damage per shot, T110E3 more comfortable to play. I definitely recommend to explore the T110E3. And before you go to the 1st place, I suggest you take a look at my top 5 best tier 10 light tanks in the game World of Tanks. Well, let's move on. 1st place. In 1st place is another Soviet tank destroyer of the 10th level, Object 268-4. You probably guessed it. Well, that's not surprising. Personally, I am surprised how such a tank could appear in the game at all. After all, this is the really imbalanced vehicle. Just think about it. The specific power of the engine is 18 horsepower per ton. The maximum forward speed is 50 kilometers per hour. Plus this tank has a phenomenal armor, which is almost impossible to penetrate. Yes, there are small vulnerabilities, but you still have to manage to hit them. That is, roughly speaking. It is a heavy tank with the mobility of a medium tank and with a gun from a tank destroyer. Speaking of gun, good armor penetration with base and premium projectiles. Damage is 650. Accuracy, stabilization and aiming time leave much to be desired. However, that tank's gun is comfortable. In total, you get the idea. Without a doubt, I can recommend this tank to everyone. Both novices and experienced players can be useful to the team by playing on Object 268-4. In conclusion, I would like to say that I despise the tank destroyer class and most players who play them. Because stupid players stand on base and are not useful for the team. However, if you play the tank destroyers correctly, not to stand all the battle at the base, and come and shoot enemies head to head, it is a very good and fun class of vehicle. After all, they have all they need to do that. Yes, the lack of a turret makes the gameplay harder. But this is compensated for by a powerful gun. This was the final video in the top 5 best 10th level tanks series. If you missed any of them, hurry up to watch it. After all, my channel has the most relevant and up-to-date information about various tanks in the game world of tanks, and not only. Well, it's time to say goodbye. Good luck to everyone and remember, enjoy the game.